What's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So it turns out Phil Town has been selling SRG recently. Okay. There was a Facebook Live that he did yesterday on January 14th. And there's a couple minute snippet in here where he talks about SRG. So I'm going to read kind of a few, talking points from that to you guys, and then we'll get into it a little bit. So, like I said, Facebook Live yesterday on Benjamin Shaw leaving SRG. So he was asked about that in the Q&A portion of this part of his live talk here. He says it changed the story when Benjamin Shaw left. He red flagged it, took it out of one portfolio, and kept it in another one. Okay, so I guess, Phil Town has two portfolios that he had SRG in. One of them he sold. The other one is still intact. He's kind of in the middle on it, right? It's not like he wants to fully head for the exits, but it's concerning, right? He red flagged it. He sold the one where he could take a big profit, which that in and of itself was interesting to me. I'm thinking, why would you sell the one that you're up on versus selling the one that you're down on? Because obviously, if you sell the one at a loss, you potentially have some tax advantages there. Potentially, he wants to show performance, right? That's the only reason I think that you'd want to sell the one that's up significantly. He says he doesn't like that red flag, right? He's concerned about it, but I think I understand where it's coming from. Okay, so Phil Town thinks he understands why Benjamin Shaw left as CEO of Seritage Growth Properties. And here's what he thinks happened. So Berkshire has the right to get rid of the entire C class of officers at that company because of their loan conditions, right? There are certain conditions, when Berkshire made that loan that aren't being met, okay? And I think they exercised that right and decided they would put in somebody that they trusted. So replace upper management. Phil Town thinks Berkshire, decided that Shaw, maybe the CFO as well, had to go, and that they knew who could run SRG better, right? They had an idea about who they wanted in there. That's Phil's justification for hanging on to a smaller position. That justification being, it's concerning, right, that the CFO and the CEO have left. But if it's true, in fact, that Berkshire said bye-bye to those two because they had some more competent upper management individuals they wanted to replace those two with, then, that might be worth hanging on. If Berkshire has somebody better that they think is better. So that's why he didn't sell everything and he's hanging on. So very interesting, guys. This is a guy, Phil Town, a couple months ago who said he thought SRG would be worth $140 per share in 10 years. I'm a little bit surprised that, Benjamin Shaw leaving changes that, really significantly. Because it seemed to me like, the big reason Phil Town was investing was because of the value of the underlying real estate, right? These, however many, 160 some properties that Seritage owns that are in, pretty nice locations for retail. Obviously the story hasn't changed too much on that, the properties that they own. But clearly, like Phil Town says, it's not a 6-inch bar. There's going to have to be decent execution on redevelopment of these properties in order to get the cash flow coming in, right? To boost the net operating income that's incoming. to be able to cover the interest expenses, to be able to cover the property management expenses with these properties, just to cover cost, right? Let alone to bring money in, to pay investors, and get that share price appreciating. So still to this day, Seritage is one of the greater shorts out there. There's a pretty high short interest in Seritage Growth Properties. Certainly the CFO and the CEO didn't help with that situation. So Phil Town dropping some pretty big news yesterday on his Facebook Live. It's a little surprising to me, but I was under the impression, and this has been circulating around on corner of Berkshire and Fairfax and other places, that the reason Benjamin Shaw left was, he's been there 5 years. His compensation package, had started to taper off, and he just had a better opportunity at a company. What was it? Avalon Bay. That's a much bigger company, and presumably a much more attractive compensation package. Benjamin Shaw never had a very large equity stake in Seritage Growth Properties. So he, seemed to primarily be there at Seritage for, the direct compensation rather than building this ownership stake in SRG. So, maybe not a huge surprise that, once those financial incentives started to taper off, to dry up a little bit, it makes sense that he would be looking for, a place that would compensate him more, a larger company to be CEO of. So, but Phil Town is saying, well, that's not what he's seeing here. And I'd love to find, if you guys have any information that might substantiate this claim, that Berkshire has exercised their right to replace upper management. I would love to see some support of that. I haven't seen anything about that personally. So it's interesting that Phil Town sees that as a distinct possibility here. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'm going to share the link to this Facebook Live. It really started at 34 minutes and 15 seconds. I will note that in the description as well. Check that out. And I'm also very curious to see, come 13F season in just a month from now, if we see any changes with Monish Pabrai, with Guy Spear, some big players in here. I don't expect that we'll see any big changes with Eddie Lampert. There was a filing recently where Eddie Lampert was doing something, but it was very small with SRG, so didn't warrant a video, that's for sure. But Guy Spear, Monish Pabrai, it'll be very interesting to see if they've made any changes, and Warren Buffett. Which we won't find out if he made any changes until the next proxy to the annual report comes out. I think that comes out sometime in April. So again, we'll just have to wait and see what some of these super investors are doing with SRG. But again, just wanted to let you guys know that there's been some changes from Phil Town on his position there. And just to go back to his holdings at the end of the third quarter, you can see here SRG was his smallest equity position at the end of September of 2020. So I guess it shouldn't be hugely surprising that he wasn't super attached to that position. But I was just going off on previous comments about it from Facebook Live discussions around how bullish he in fact was. So that in and of itself is a little surprising. But really, guys, at the end of the day, if we're doing cloning, if we're getting ideas from these great investors, it's really where we need to be looking is how are they voting with their money, right? Or their investors' money, rather than, how bullish do they sound in sound bites on the company. If you're just looking at the sound bites, what Phil Town has said about SRG in the past, he sounds really bullish. But if you look at his actual portfolio, this is the Rule 1 fund. Clearly, he's not as bullish as he is on the 10 positions or 9 positions ahead of Seritage Growth Properties. So it just kind of reinforces to, look at what these investors are doing more so than look at what they're saying. Okay. And that's all I wanted to share, guys, about Phil Town's recent activity with Seritage Growth Properties. Again, let me know in the comments if you guys have come across any resources that can help us wrap our heads better around what may have caused the CFO and the CEO to leave, what might be the plans to replace them. I'm very curious about that. And curious to hear from you. How has it impacted your thesis for Seritage Growth Properties as an investment? And I will leave it at that, guys. And I will see you all. I should say, it hasn't impacted my investment. I haven't bought more. I haven't sold off any shares of Seritage Growth Properties. And of course, none of this is investment advice. Do your own research. Just interesting. It's fascinating stuff to me, so I'm sharing it. And of course, I learned so much from you guys leaving comments, having a discussion in the comments. I get emails from you guys. I get messages on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and it's just fantastic. So I'm really here to learn more, to get better as an investor, and to connect with you guys, bounce ideas off of my very intelligent tribe here on YouTube. With that, I will leave you guys until the next video. Take care.